Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. As India advances towards its 2047 Viksit Bharat vision with an ambitious goal of sustaining growth above 8% a year, a new NITI Aayog report charts a bold blueprint for how artificial intelligence can power this journey. It shows that accelerating AI adoption across sectors and driving relentless innovation could lift growth well beyond that target, adding hundreds of billions of dollars to the economy. The report also sets out a concrete action plan to turn AI's promise into real outcomes. Complementing this roadmap, a frontier tech repository has also been unveiled, featuring over 200 impact stories from across India in key sectors like agriculture, healthcare, education, and also national security. So on the show today, we unpack the key findings of this blueprint and also explore how it could fast-track our Viksit Bharat vision. Joining us are two distinguished guests, Dr. Chintan Vaishnav, former Mission Director, Atal Innovation Mission, NITI Aayog. Dr. Vaishnav, thank you very much for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. We're also joined by Professor Huzur Saran, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Delhi. Professor, delighted to have you with us on this telecast. Dr. Vaishnav, let me begin the program today with you, since you were one of the members of the expert council that provided foresight and contributions to the report. The report talks about the potential of artificial intelligence in spurring growth in the country. Give us and our viewers a sense of the potential that AI holds, that the report also talks about, on how it can power us towards our Viksit Bharat goal.
So, the backdrop here is the following. If you and I'd like to rephrase the idea of potential a little bit. This is almost this report says that not only there's potential, but this through AI is our only pathway to that dream of Viksit Bharat. So if you take business as usual, that is that we are growing at 5.7% year over year, then by 2035 we would have a total of an economy of $6.6 trillion. Now, if the Viksit Bharat aspiration, which has already been laid out, of growing at 8% a year, then we reach by 2035 a number of $8.3 trillion economy. Now that gap between 8.3 and 6.6, which is about $1.7 trillion gap, where will that acceleration come from? And this report argues that through artificial intelligence, or through the use of artificial intelligence, is our only pathway to that acceleration. Of course, there would have to be other things done, but AI is a key lever in this pathway. And this report, and we could talk more about it, but this report talks about two levers within AI as to what you can do to existing economy versus what you can do to bring about a new economy. And in each lever, it talks about two examples. So that is how the report is laid out.
So we will talk about the sectoral approach that this report also talks about what is the kind of tangible approach that it lays out in the roadmap in due course of the program. Let me also get in Professor Saran's perspective on the NITI Aayog blueprint. Professor, so this report calls artificial intelligence a decisive lever for achieving India's 8% growth target. In your view, why is artificial intelligence central to our Viksit Bharat mission?
I would say that definitely artificial intelligence, if effectively used in different sectors of the economy, and the report talks about impact on financial, it talks about impact on pharma and on other areas and governance and infrastructure. So clearly, if it is effectively utilized, it is anticipated that it can give significant productivity gains. And the increased productivity will, of course, lead to increased growth within the economy. Whether it will be an equitable growth or not is another question, because that again the report considers the fact that it may actually lead to lowering of employment if AI becomes very productive and the manpower need of industry goes down. So that's a risk that has also been outlined. But definitely on a qualitative level, I cannot speak to the numbers. I'm not an expert I'm not an economist, so I cannot comment on the numbers. But qualitatively, AI, because it helps us to process information more effectively and make decisions in a more timely and accurate manner, can definitely improve any organization's functioning if implemented carefully and properly.
Okay, so let's understand in detail about the sectoral approach that this report also talks about. Dr. Vaishnav, I'll come back to you. So the AI for Viksit Bharat roadmap does deliver a clear, specific, sector-specific action plan. What, according to you, are some of the most ready sectors to see the tangible impact of AI in the next few years? Because when we are talking about the growth, it needs to be achieved right now and then sustained for the next 2 decades for us to realize the 2047 target.
It talks about two sectors where, two existing sectors where productivity, efficiency, cost structure, all of it can be improved through aggressive adoption of AI. These two are manufacturing and financial services. And then it talks about two other sectors where AI and generative AI driven innovation can lead to some form of leapfrogging. And these two sectors are pharmaceutical and automotive. So these are the 4 sectors where this report focuses on. The idea is that there are about, if you look at what will drive the top 25% of that growth, the projection is these 4 sectors are within that projection. So these are some of the highest leverage levers for us to go after. That is not to say that other sectors will not be influenced by AI, but what the report tries to do is it creates a template by which you can go into these 4 sectors, but you can also begin to analyze other sectors of relevance as the time goes on.
What should be the biggest enabler that India should build in the times to come? There are 2 specific factors. They say, that there should be innovation at a large scale, and if that is to be in the focus, how do we enable that to happen in terms of say data frameworks, in terms of compute capacity, or maybe there are several other factors that will help us achieve this AI driven growth? The report talks about the potential. We need to provide the enablers in order to achieve that kind of growth.
So there are many angles to this. Of course, we need, as you say, data availability. Sometimes in any process, or manufacturing process, for example, the level of instrumentation and data availability has to be adequate so AI can play a role. So that itself needs investments. The AI itself, of course, needs huge infrastructure investments in the AI learning and inference system. But I would say a very important element is the human element in it. What I mean by that is we need enough highly trained professionals who understand how to leverage AI, how to develop different AI models and use them in an effective manner. Because just saying I have AI and then saying I will deploy it is not how it works. You have to design for your specific application or for your specific industry. And that needs a lot of very highly skilled manpower. And I think that itself, I do think the report also highlights the need for that. But that needs both a huge investment from the government and also the willingness of industry to invest much more in R&D than they have been doing in the past, if you look at the numbers.
Absolutely. So, Professor, generative AI is something that we see it's finding special focus, special mention as a tool for leapfrogging innovation. You mentioned R&D. How do you think generative AI will shorten the R&D cycles? Also, when it comes to the Indian context, we need to look at the cost factor as well. So, shortening of the R&D cycles at the same time, the lowering of the costs as well in our country?
Definitely, the lot of candidate options can be easily eliminated through emulation simulation in AI frameworks. So definitely the R&D researcher can, where he was going to spend months trying out different, for example, drug combinations, now through AI, he can try to see which of these are more likely to be successful. So many scenarios which originally you just had to test on the lab, and that would take many months to test. You could at least pre-test using AI. That's one example in the pharma new drug development area, but similar things hold in every scenario. So a well designed framework can help you definitely increase the throughput of your research so that the same drug discovery or the same new invention which took X number of years earlier could potentially be achieved in some much smaller fraction of the time. And so overall, the R&D can be more effectively and productively done. But again, this is something that everybody will do. So to maintain a competitive edge, you will also need the man who's driving this whole thing to also be, and the whole system process should to be intelligently designed so that you maintain a competitive edge. Because every other person anywhere else can also use the same AI.
Okay, okay.
So it is
that's interesting. Let me take that across to Dr. Vaishnav. So to maintain that competitive edge, what policy moves or maybe incentives do you think could make India an attractive base for AI research and IP creation? Dr. Vaishnav?
Yeah, so I think this broadly, this report speaks to three categories of measures across all these four sectors that we are talking about, right? First is infrastructure, second is data, and third is the talent. So the idea in each sector, then obviously what it means, each of these components is different. For instance, if you take the automotive sector, unless we have highway systems that are highly interconnected, say a 5G corridors type of highway systems, a lot of this leapfrog innovation that we are trying to imagine would not have adequate use and would not impact the productivity. So infrastructure in each case is different. But infrastructure is one piece. The second piece is data. So for instance, data, if you look at pharmaceutical, India has the greatest diversity of the gene pool because of our a long history and a diverse population. The omics database that say companies can use to discover new drugs is a data type of an intervention. And the talent is the third piece. Professor Saran very eloquently spoke about it, that we have to retrain existing talent. We may have to help talent shift to other things that they currently don't do, right. Because certain professions are far more exposed to AI than certain other professions, and so on. So, but the bottom line, I think this report embraces is that, first of all, for India, this is a tremendous opportunity because it equalizes opportunity in many different domains. But the second is sitting by the sidelines and watching this revolution sort of go over is not an option.
Certainly, that's true. You spoke about some of these sectors particularly which can have tangible outcomes. You also spoke about diversity. So let me ask you a related question on the diversity and the scale that India has. How would you describe to us and our viewers about some of the most practical first steps that we should be taking to integrate AI responsibly across these sectors? You mentioned infrastructure, there's banking, there's pharma sector, the automotive sector. So just curious to know that does the report also lay out perhaps the action plan on what should be our steps to integrate and responsibly integrate AI into all of these key sectors?
So this report, we spent a lot of time trying to be as spent a lot of time trying to make this report as actionable as possible without being overly prescriptive. But to practical measures, for instance, the moment we say that we want we want to orchestrate the idea of data sharing, the very first idea in terms of responsibility that comes back to us is that it must happen in privacy preserving, secure. It's a massive challenge, across sectors. But we also know that if you don't share data, then you don't have a way to leverage the AI revolution. So, and you will see that, again, sector after sector, there's a little more drill down into how do you do this. But at this point, what will have to happen is that industry, academia, government will have to embrace this opportunity and translate these suggestions into what is actionable within their own domains.
Okay, let me take that back to Professor Saran on what role can the universities, the research institutions play in not just laying out the action plan, but helping build an adaptable AI ecosystem, which includes the skilling and the training part of the young talent. Professor Saran?
So definitely, IIT Delhi itself, for example, has recognized, and many other institutions, that there is a tremendous need for skilled AI professionals. And towards that end, the IIT Delhi set up the Yardi School of Artificial Intelligence about 2.5, 3 years ago. And we offer master's and PhD programs in that. Similarly, we offer specializations in AI to our undergraduate students. I think this should be done, and I believe it is being done by most institutions all over the country. Also, there is need for domain-specific, how to use AI in a particular domain. For example, in the healthcare domain, in the pharmaceutical drug discovery domain, in financial sector, for fraud analytics. So even in a BCom degree today, there should be AI courses on how to analyze balance sheets using AI. For example, look for transactions that may be suspicious. So I'm just saying this needs to be throughout the entire educational system. Maybe some level of AI skilling is even needed at the school level, right? So this is something I think all of us have to apply our mind. I cannot speak in a blanket way, but I think what NITI Aayog has done is a very good step, and I think this needs further thought process at different levels in the ministries and in the autonomous institutions, so that we can develop and take this strategy forward.
Absolutely. I think in context of this, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who was there at the launch of these reports, also highlighted that AI-assisted technologies should be adopted in all districts of India to bring about true development, something that this report also foresees. Dr. Vaishnav, the report also flags certain risks. For example, privacy, there is consent fatigue that it talks about, regulatory misalignment. What, according to you, are the biggest governance challenges in context of India?
So I think that's a very important part of this report. I would urge your viewers also that it's important to pay attention to to two parts of this report as they implement some of these suggestions. One is are the assumptions that are behind this analysis. Not all of these assumptions, well, these are assumptions we can make today to be able to make this analysis possible, because the influence of AI is so colossal. So to bring it within our actionable realm, we have to make certain assumptions. But we have to watch whether these assumptions hold or not. That is one piece that I'd urge your viewers to do. Second is these areas of risk. These are uncertainties that we can see are uncertainties, but we don't know their consequences, whether they'll be positive consequences, negative consequences. And so I think these risk areas are important to watch also. I think for the regulators, which kind of, at the highest level, which oversee the progress of our nation, the thing that they ought to balance is economic growth on one side and life and livelihood on the other side, because there is going to be every time there's an automation technology around the world since industrial revolution, right? There's a fear of what will happen to the humanity. And I think that fear is at its greatest at this point. And that balance has to come from good governance.
Okay, Professor, so how do we balance it in the wake of the risks that the report highlights, but at the same time, we need to keep accelerating AI adoption across different sectors. Going forward, what should we prioritize to mitigate these risks?
Well, I think there are 3 or 4 elements one can do. One is we should start with pilot projects in different areas so that we learn more about the technology. See, you cannot invest in one full swing across the whole economy. So we have to do some pilot projects, and that will give us much more learning. As was pointed out, we have a certain set of assumptions right now, and AI itself is evolving. So we need to understand how this will really play out when we go ahead and deploy it at some scale in different sectors. B, we need to ensure that we have stakeholder engagement. As you say, that there is always fears from employees that employers will benefit from it and employees may suffer as a result. So that we have to have
Okay, Professor Saran, we lost your audio, so we'll come back to you for one last comment. But let me bring in Dr. Vaishnav at this point in time. Time is very less, so let's start taking concluding remarks. Dr. Vaishnav, so the report, of course, has been prepared after extensive research. It promises a lot of transformation and puts us on the growth trajectory, much closer to our Viksit Bharat goal. But how would you identify in the next few months, or what would be the signal for you that this roadmap is actually working? What will be the biggest visible change that you and your team will be able to point out and say, okay, our roadmap is actually being implemented and the change is visible?
If the vocabulary of this roadmap begins to be our industry, academia, governance vocabulary, then I think we're beginning to think about it seriously.
Okay, Professor, how would you respond to that? And that would be the last comment from you. Yes.
I think the roadmap is a very good start. And as was pointed out, by their minds and start really taking the next step. And that will show us how excited industry, academia, and other elements, even state governments are in taking this forward.
Can I make one last point?
Yes, Dr. Vaishnav.
So I want our viewers to know that, there are 2 conditions that are unprecedented since the Industrial Revolution, that we're seeing for the first time since the Industrial Revolution of 1895 or so. These 2 conditions are, first time, technology is moving much faster, an order of magnitude or more faster than the speed at which our institutions today make decisions. We have not had this condition for a long time. Even when mobile phones got adopted, it took 20 years for mobile phones to get adopted. So that's one thing. And the second, is that for the first time, we are trying to govern or regulate something that is what technically would be called non-deterministic. In other words, most of the technologies, you put some input and you get a desired output. Here, the thing in between is learning. And it's evolving all the time, as Professor Sharan was saying. So we have an unprecedented sort of opportunity and this moment. And it's really important for all of us to work together to make this a success in our favor.
Certainly, it's very promising. It talks about the vast opportunities that are there, but at the same time, it also cautions against some of the risks that prevail. So important to absorb the little details in this report, and hopefully, when implemented, that change will be visible. AI is central to our Viksit Bharat goal, and perhaps when that transformation happens, it will propel us and accelerate our momentum that we are in to realize this goal of becoming a developed nation by 2047. With that, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. Thank you once again to both my guests for joining us on the program today, sharing your thoughts, your views with us and our viewers. And to you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।